Let's go! There's the snap, there's the knee. That's one. You stand up, Jared. Put those arms in the air.
All right. Well, hey, good morning, everybody. It is the Rise and Grind Morning Show, March 28th, 2024. It's technical difficulty Thursday and Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, all this week. So I apologize. We're working through it. If we have some issues today, we'll work through it in real time and try to get back. I don't have a mouse today. Apparently, computer decided it doesn't like Bluetooth. So we're gonna work through it. But good morning, everybody. Bobby Tarantino, Man Bear Pig. Colby, the Devil Squad 7, Stacy, like that one, 8:30 in the morning. Nasty Man Nate, 88. Got Uper Lights, Eric Rentamaki, which Eric last night said that he's got some availability. He might be coming on some shows, help us get some more time in, and we'll work through that today. Next week, we should see Eric on. He's got a brand new setup. You guys should check it out. We got Steve K says he's here for the free snacks. Derek W, Man Bear Pig, of course, John Desage, Tracy. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? And of course, Derek, co-host of the show this morning. How you doing, man?
Man, good morning, Will. Today is the anniversary, man. You know what today is? The anniversary of what?
Well, this show ends and it starts new on Rocked On Syndicate.
Yeah, that is true. But it is the 2-month anniversary, man, of our brutal crushing loss to the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, come on. You know what?
Hey,
I'm having technical difficulty. Hold on here.
That is how my mind works, bro. I don't celebrate it, but I'm kind of moping around today, bro. 2 months ago, 60 days ago today, man. So, but good morning, everybody in the chat.
Good Lord.
Hey, that's how it is, bro. Why you think I'm always angry?
Yeah, I'm always upset. Yeah, I know. You trust me. Hey, your fans are recognizing it, man. They know that you're in it to win it. That's the passion that he has. It's just passion coming out. He wants to win. He's sick of losing.
Let me know, man. I'm sure they let you know too.
Yeah, I've had a few. Like last night, I got a little spicy with it, and I think it people kind of look at me sideways, like this is not the same Will that we've been talking with.
Yeah.
But you know what? When you got some hot topics to get out and you just don't understand a few things that are happening that haven't made sense with the status quo of Detroit Lions football, I think it makes you ask a few of the right questions and you just probably never get the right answers. So I wanted to start off this morning, kind of with a weird question. And it's something that I learned a long time ago. Being in sales, shoes were like, everything. You had to have a really good pair of shoes. And Derek, I want to ask you, and this analogy is to football in a way this morning. So what is the difference between a $500 pair of shoes, dress shoes we're talking about, and a $50 pair of shoes? What would you say would be the main difference between a $500 pair of shoes and a $50 pair of shoes in thinking of terms of football players? This is a tough one.
Yeah, because I have no idea where you're trying to go. In terms of football players, there's a 90% different in price. I mean, bro, I don't know. I mean, you got the price. You could have material. You could have the person the name of the shoe, who makes it, whether it's Stacey Adams or Louis Vuitton. There's a lot of different things, but I would have to say probably name of the creator. So name brand versus maybe a little less of a name brand, and maybe some material. You might have a I don't know, an alligator that's on the extinct list or something like that. I have no idea, bro. But that's what I would think that it would be material, but I think it would probably be name more than anything else.
So you're like spot on with it. But to bring it into the light that I'm thinking here is, when you talk about a $500 pair of shoes, it's a shoe that's going to last you 10 years. When you spend the money and invest the money into a good quality shoe, that leather is better. It's full leather. It's not faux leather. You got good workmanship, right? It's put together the right way, and it's a time-tested product. So it's going to last you a lot longer. All you have to do is polish it a little bit, right? Keep it clean. Take care of your shoe. Put some shoe trees in it every night when you're done. You take care of your baby, right? The $50 pair of shoes, you're going to wear them out in 3 to 4 to 5 months. And you're going to buy 3, 4, 5 pairs of $50 shoes in a season when, you're in a typical sales position and you're running all over the place and you're constantly on your feet and you're working. The analogy is with football players, and I don't know what Brad Holmes is doing, because when you talk about plan A versus plan B, and he says that he goes out and gets all of his plan A guys, you're thinking, okay, well, great. You got a bunch of $500 pair of shoes is what we're expecting. Guys that are going to last, guys that are going to go in and work, and guys that are going to give you everything that you need. That name that you're talking about, that Louis Vuitton of an edge rusher, that Louis Vuitton of a cornerback, whatever it's going to be, as opposed to, you said Stacey Adams. I guess, that's a mid-range shoe.
Mm-hmm.
So you got a shoe that you're going to have to replace more often. So I started thinking about this last night, like, okay, the name itself, Danielle Hunter, that's a name.
Yeah.
But it's someone that's also been time tested. He's done it. He's been performing at a high level, doesn't miss a ton of games. And someone that you pay that good money for, you expect him to stick around for the next few seasons to give you everything that you're looking for. We go and grab Carlton Banks, that's missed 23% of his time as an NFL pro. Amik Robertson has been about the only one that's been pretty consistent. And then DJ Reader, again, somebody that's missed quite a bit of time over the last 3-4 seasons. So my question is he buying $500 pair of shoes at a $50 rate and expecting to get the $500 out of it? That's what I'm kind of seeing with this right now. Like, you bought a $500 pair of shoe for $50. What are you going to get out of it? Are you going to get everything that you thought, or is this going to blow up in our face? And there's been a lot of talk on all the different social medias about it, about these players not being consistent. And that's my biggest worry, especially when he came out with plan A versus plan B. And I don't see it, man. So that's where I'm starting with this morning. How do you feel about the plan A comment and kind of what he did this offseason so far?
Man. Okay. So like I said, man, I'm going to keep this show. I'm not going to take it to syndicate levels. Okay. I'm going to channel more rocked on here.
All right.
I thought this last night, and I think, Will, people have been telling me like I've been changing, and to some extent I might have. Just social media is changing you in a way that I think sometimes you have to get a little more callous, a little more coarse when it comes to how you deal with things. And I think a little bit of Brad Holmes, man, you might not be able to see it per se, but I think there's some type of swag, a little bit of not high horse, but kind of like, y'all criticized me for the draft last year. I killed it. I won GM thing of the year, draft, excellence of the year or whatever. So obviously I know what I'm doing, right? Kind of like the I told you that I like to run. So maybe
and GM of the year.
And yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I think it might be a little bit of swag. He comes in year one, has to revamp this team, retool, blah, 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 hires Dan Campbell. And now we are, a half away from going to the Super Bowl his third year. So I think that he's become like kind of his I don't want to make it seem like I don't like Brad Holmes, but you get what I'm saying, man. Like, he might be a little bit not full of himself, because full of himself to me means that you can't be approached, you can't be told anything different. But I think he might like, listen, I know what I'm doing. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. I think that's more of what's going on here. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to say this is his first time as an actual general manager, and he has done great things for this team. From the cellar, bro, of Matt Patricia to a half away from the Super Bowl. So I give him credit for that. But I think it might be a little swag, man. His swag might be on 10. And I think that's kind of why the whole plan A thing comes out. We hit all our guys, because I personally don't buy that. If you telling me Marcus Davenport was plan A, then I'm concerned. So,
yeah.
And then the whole Josh Reynolds thing, right? We're trying to sign Josh Reynolds. He's a priority. One day later, he signs with the Denver Broncos. So I don't know, man. I think Brad Holmes he stays the enigma that we've been used to these last 3 years.
So you're kind of going in the direction that I thought you would. And so what I'm seeing here is, do we dare say it's a little bit of ego? That Brad Holmes has, pretty big ego right now, rightfully so. And I'd say a lot of fans aren't used to that, especially in Detroit. And I hope that it doesn't come back to bite him, that, he makes great decisions. He's been solid so far. We really shouldn't doubt him a whole lot, but man, I saw a lot of different conversations happening between Twitter and in the Facebook private groups where, and even in some of the chats that I've been involved in, where some of the fans are a little bit worried that maybe his ego is starting to come out a little bit because he had that limited amount of success so far. And let's be honest here. It's a ton, right, for Lions fans.
Mm-hmm.
It's limited on the grand scheme of the NFL. Like we are a drop in a 5-gallon bucket right now, but we feel on top of the world.
Yep.
Because we haven't been here before. And we haven't done these things before. So I think for that reason, now you got a few fans on the other side of the fence saying, wait a second here. Like, we just had a glimmer of hope. Was that a Cinderella story? Was that, a fluke that you just happened to all kind of come together? We got everybody healthy at the right time, and we made a run against some teams that maybe weren't as good as what they have been in the last few seasons. I mean, the simple fact that the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl with a team, in my opinion, that didn't belong anywhere near the Super Bowl. And that speaks volumes to what can happen in the NFL. And I think that it's not any more clear than that any given Sunday, anything can happen. And I think that proves it to you, that the Chiefs didn't belong there. But somehow they made it there, and they were able to finish the job. I think that the Lions are a much better team. What was the difference between the Chiefs and the Lions, in your opinion?
Ooh, that's a good one. See, do I think we would have beat them? I do, with Chris Jones and Travis Kelce, especially that first half that they were having. The difference, was Andy Reid is their coach. Okay. This is not a shot to Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell is fantastic, but Andy Reid is him, right? That's where Dan Campbell is aspiring to be. Let's be real. And also, okay, they invested something in their defense. We can talk about Patrick Mahomes all day. We can talk about Travis Kelce all day long. Dude had 5th and 6th tier receivers, right? Kadarius Toney was inactive. That's how unneeded they felt he was, right? But when you come down to it, okay, we like to say that football doesn't come down to one play, and for the most part, it doesn't. Most people say that, but if you really look, sometimes it does, man. We like to have like an oxymoron. It doesn't come down to one play. This one play didn't lose. I've never seen a player get as much hate as Josh Reynolds has gotten, where Lions fans act like he has lost us the game when no one talks about the 27 unanswered points that the Detroit Lions defense gave up. So to bring that back around to what do I think it was? I think they had a semblance of a defense, whereas we had none. And if you look at the Super Bowl, Chris Jones, the man that just got the highest paid defensive tackle contract in the league, made a play when it counted. And that sometimes it can come down to that. So I think it came down to coaching, and I think it came down to a better defense, because you like to talk about the defense and where it needs to rank for us to be winners. And the Chiefs was higher than ours, much, much higher than ours. So that's what I think it was. Do I think we can get there, Will? I do, man. But I think that's what it was, coaching and defense.
I think you're spot on with that, man. I think the defense obviously had two components that were much better than ours, and that would be Trent McDuffie, L'Jarius Sneed, and then of course Chris Jones. And those were the two positions that I really felt strongly about that Brad Holmes is going to address, and he did. You know, he brought in his Chris Jones, DJ Reader, not the same planet, but not even the same planetary system right now. But we're hopeful that the DJ Reader gets back to his self. The guy's a heck of a leader. He's a heck of a player when he's actually in the game. We just hope that he stays in the game. And then on the backside of the defense, and then that's kind of what worried me and why I got a little hyped up last night was plan A in the cornerbacks to me means that you really need to go out and find that pit bull, bulldog, someone that's consistent, that you just don't have to worry what side of the field that they're on, what zone that they're in, what if they're man to man or not. You don't have to worry about them. You know that, there's going to be a few balls that are caught here and there, but more likely than not, that cornerback is going to win all game long. And that's what I expected. Is Brad Holmes going to find that guy in the draft? That's what's been heavily speculated. But now some of the tables have turned a little bit. And what you're seeing is people calling for a wide receiver early in the first round. And look, I'm not saying that there's no outside shot that wouldn't happen. It just wouldn't make any sense. But at the same time, drafting best player available really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to a lot of people because they don't really understand it when you're looking at, man, we really could get better here. Why did you go opposite direction over here? And it's because Brad Holmes looks at this from the perspective of, I want better football players on my team overall. He wants to upgrade any position at any time through the draft. He didn't necessarily do it in free agency. So I think for all of those reasons, it's going to be an interesting draft. I don't know what's going to happen. This is probably one of the toughest ones, I've ever had to look at. But you brought up Josh Reynolds, so let's go there next. Josh Reynolds obviously signs in Denver, 2 years up to a $14 million max over those 2 seasons. So let's just call it $7 million a year. He'll probably get it. A lot of people, calling for Josh Reynolds' head because they feel like he lost this, the opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. I don't believe that. I think that there's too much that happened there. Josh has been too consistent for too long. He's been too good of a player, too good of a teammate, and really Jared Goff's right-hand man for more than 6 seasons. So for all those reasons, I think that it would have been great to have him back. But I think the writing was on the wall. And I said this last night. The Lions brought in Traquan Smith, and that doesn't mean that he's an immediate starter. He still has to earn a position on this team. But they brought in somebody with a similar skill set that they expected either Josh was going to sign early or DPJ was going to come back. And once one of those happened, whoever was on the outside looking in was going to stay on the outside looking in unless they decided to come back for a cheap deal, which didn't happen. Josh still got paid a commensurate amount of money. It's about $7 million a year. So what do you think about that situation and in the eventual, Josh Reynolds leaving to go to a different team? And what does that say about the Lions now over the next couple of months heading up to the draft?
Well, I'm going to tell you, Will, this is why one of the reasons that I love this platform and I started talking on it, because I feel like we each have our own unique opinion. And I have some thoughts on this whole thing. And my thoughts are I'm a huge pattern guy. And this year was going to tell me a lot about Brad Holmes. And now I am convinced beyond any reasonable doubt that Brad Holmes is the guy we thought he was. He is who we thought he was, or at least for me. So when it comes to, there are things that I see here. Okay. You had a guy who was the heart of the team, who all of a sudden flipped on us last year. It's like, what's wrong with this guy? I'm talking about Jamal Williams. Said he felt disrespected, right? So I'm saying, okay, now I don't know the particulars of the detail, the contract. I don't know if they ever came out. But then you look at this year, and the pattern that I tell people, and I know it's my delivery, and that's cool because that's how I am. That's the things that you look for. If people don't sign, we could have signed Josh Reynolds at any time, Will, any single time between 2 months ago and the start of free agency, and we didn't, right? So I knew something was wrong. So what am I getting at? Is Josh Reynolds was paid a measly $6 million over 2 seasons. And according to some articles that I read yesterday, his team and the Detroit Lions were nowhere near where they wanted to be.
Yeah.
And that's where that's why his departure came. So I feel like there are things that we keep seeing, and Brad Holmes got a little low ball in him. I see that now, bro. Not only is he cheap, but he's going to throw you here. This is what we're going to give you. If you don't like it, we're going to move on. Because remember, Will, Jamal Williams, that thing was still going on. He signed David Montgomery out of nowhere. And it's like Jamal's like, what? So I think as far as Josh Reynolds is concerned, bro, I know a lot of people have an issue with that $7 million. I do not at all. I did not. Josh Reynolds would have been a solid wide receiver 3. Now people are talking about through the draft. And I'm like, okay, you said we're not going to draft for need. We're going to draft BPA, but the need is defense. That is the need. And now we also may need a wide receiver. I'm not as high as Traquan and maybe as some other people are, right? So I see that Brad Holmes, I would love to know what the particulars were. I'm just going to throw something out there. If we gave him 2 years, $6 million, I think you and I were talking yesterday, maybe it was a 1 year. Brad loves his 1 year boys, right? But I think that Josh earned a 2 year at least. I think it was the money. So I'm going to say they were probably offering 2 years between 8 to 10 million. And Josh was like, nope, I'm going to get mine from somewhere else. You're not going to give it to me. I truly believe he wanted to be here. I'm going to miss him, bro. I really am. I think he did not get as much respect and credit as he should have. And then the way that he left this team is going to be a tough kind of departure. But I wish him well, man. He went out and got his money. And I think he's going to, as soon as they find out who's throwing him the ball in Denver, I think he's going to do fine, man.
So, I mean, I think that's something to take away from this, that, between egos and everything else that are involved in everything in life, but especially in this game, I think that Josh Reynolds' ego is probably a little bit bruised. I haven't heard anything negative from Josh Reynolds' camp about the situation. I guess I really wouldn't expect it. But
this is all me speculating that.
Oh, I got you.
No, nothing was said by Josh at all or his camp. I'm just putting pieces together based off Jamal Williams and the fact that Josh, he got what he wanted in Denver. He wasn't going to get that here.
Yeah, and Denver was our best case scenario, because in my opinion, if a player like Josh Reynolds ends up in Kansas City, that's a problem, because you want to talk about someone that's going to develop a really good rapport with Patrick Mahomes. It's somebody like Josh Reynolds, but Denver is a mess. They need a quarterback, so that was our best case scenario of where he ended up going. Had he had gone to Baltimore, I think that would have been a big problem for us too. Only because I expect us to be somewhere at the end of the season. Let me welcome in the chat again, see what everyone's talking about. So John Desage says, I forgot I don't have a mouse. John Desage says, consistency is what gives GMs the right to be arrogant. It's okay. Good morning, Demigod 303. Glad you could join us this morning. John Desage says, yeah, big play defense was the difference. Well put, Syndicate. Good morning, Braylon. What's up, man? How you doing this morning? And Demigod 303 backed that up by saying Brad Holmes does address some of the issues, but the problem is he's going after below average and rotational guys. To that point, I hear you. I'm just wondering, is Brad Holmes really still in backup mode? Are the starters really the guys that are coming from the draft? I mean, yes, we're getting some starters through free agency, but I feel like because they're such short deals, that these are guys that you're expecting to start this year, and whoever we grab in the draft is going to be your next starter on this team for the next 3-4 years to follow that. So I think that he's still in backup mode. He's building depth. And I think when you see a lot of these signings, DJ Reader's not depth, obviously. Carlton Davis isn't depth, but they're also not long-term deals. So we're expecting to have those players come through the draft. When you look at what Brad Holmes has done, and you guys know that I have, there's two things that remain true. Number one, when you look at the top 30 visits, combine visits, whatever you want to call them, or all the above, actually, because they're all different. The guys that he meets with are the guys that he drafts. That's number one. So you can bet that 80% of our draft picks this year are coming from the guys that he's already spoken to. Number two, when you look at the guys that he hires in free agency, those are typically some of the positions that he also drafts in the draft that year. So when you look at what we brought in already, cornerback, and defensive tackle, I'm expecting those two positions to get addressed in the draft this year. I don't think that we need another defensive tackle. So for that reason, I think it'll probably be defensive end, hopefully. But that it all depends on where it lines up. J Mommy says Williams ended up getting $2 million less a year than the Lions offered. Yeah, I think it was all bad timing for Jamal. Obviously, the Saints were a dumpster fire. They didn't have a good season. Braylon Dennis. Nope, you were just replying to Demigod there. Applying pressure says I'm a defense guy, and I want Brad to draft a defensive end, but not bringing back Josh. Brad is going to draft a wide receiver, Xavier Legette, who is cheaper and better than Josh.
So he's a first-round talent, right?
Well, yes and no. So here's the issue with Xavier Legette. One, you guys know that I've been high on him for more than a month now. Number two, I didn't know his measurables. Nobody did. He was listed as 6'3", like 220. And at the combine, he measured just over 6'1" in just under 220. That's a big difference for an X receiver. Somebody on the outside, you want them to be over 6'2" for sure. 6'3" is like the going rate. So to have a big bodied X receiver come into this team, which is what we're missing. That's the key to this team right now. We are missing that big body outside guy, boundary guy, someone that is a red zone threat. And someone that can take the top off of defense. I don't know if you would agree with that, Derek, but that's the receiver that we're missing. And even Green, the guy that we drafted last year in the 7th round, he's not that guy yet. So he may never be that guy. I guess the point that I'm trying to make is Xavier Legette dropped a few rungs in my draft because of his height. And I think that he did kind of around the league. He's just so well liked. And he's such a good guy that I think he slides up in some drafts. So if you're looking for character, man, he's a top 10. If you're looking for, a good solid wide receiver that can develop into a pretty solid role that is a hybrid between the slot and the X, he's probably a top 40 at that point. So I don't think that he slips past 45. And I think that someone's going to take him early in the 2nd round. If he somehow slips out of the 1st round and gets past the Lions, I just don't think he's as high on the Lions board as what a lot of people would wish. And that's just my guess. That's just my thoughts. You can agree or disagree. But that's just my opinion at this point. I think that there's other wide receivers that would make more sense. Is that still you? Says he's risking a ring for money. That's practical, but must hurt inside a bit. He spent years doing us good. And I think that Brad Holmes is the best GM we've ever had. I think he's the best GM we'll probably ever have at this point.
I agree.
I don't think that there's, when we talk about these guys, it's not like we're throwing shade on them. It's not like we're, that we dislike them. It's just our job. Maybe it's an accepted role is that we try to find all of the nuances, the nuggets, the information, and then form opinions to try to deliver some good content and conversation, talking points. I know speaking for myself, and I know Derek does this too, is, we try to find things that spark conversation, whether it's good, bad, in the middle. I think that it's healthy. You got to look at all angles. You got to accept everyone's opinions out there, that you don't have to agree with it, but at least accept it, listen to it, and then form your opinion. And that's what we do here. We do a great job here at Rocktown Syndicate, especially with the people in the chat. Every single time that we're in on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings at 8:30 in the morning, that you guys do a wonderful job with getting along, first of all, but also creating good conversation. I think the chat is probably more important than the two talking heads on the show, to be honest with you, because it seems like you guys always have really good conversations going in there. So take it away, Derek. What's next on your list this morning?
Well, I'll go into that, Will. I just want to backtrack a little bit to where I'm at, okay? And this is where the passion comes from, and this is where the angry black man, I guess, syndrome comes from, and this is why I'm so tough on players and so not players, but why I'm so tough. Okay. We draft Brad, there are needs on this team, right? And every year, one single team wins, right? So anything less, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your season is a disappointment. For the Lions now, not making the Super Bowl in 2024 will be a disappointment. So you say, okay, and Brad Holmes likes to draft BPA. But if that BPA is not a need, will it make a difference? Okay. So for all the good, and this is what you hear from me, and I know for me a lot is my delivery. It's the fact that I come off very brazen, and that's just how I am, right? But what I'm trying to get across to you in the chat and the people who watch this show and my show and stuff like that is that will that equal a Super Bowl win? If you have a bunch of BPAs that are not needs of your team to take it to the next level, can you get to the next level? Case in point, we need a defense. If Brad Holmes goes BPA and that BPA is a wide receiver in the first round, is that wide receiver going to help us get to and win a Super Bowl when the defense can't stop a runny nose? So, and that's the passion that you hear from me. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't sit around waiting for the NFC title game. I am waiting on a Super Bowl and then another one and another one. I want us to be the next Kansas City Chiefs. If this is how we get there, fine. But in the meantime, all this BPA and all that stuff is great. But what if our offense is number 1 and our defense is 32? Are we going to win anything? That's a very tough thing to do. You can't overcome if your defense can't stop anything, right? So that's what you hear from me. Now, the point that we're going to go in, and I brought this up to Will. Now that Josh Reynolds is gone, there's a guy that keeps coming back up, and I know how Will feels about this. I want to know how y'all feel in the chat. There's a guy that we had a couple years ago. Not sure if he'll come back because he wanted to be a number 1. His name is DJ Chark. We don't have a deep threat outside of Jamison Williams. We have lost our reliable target in Josh Reynolds. We still have St. Brown, Laporta, those guys, right? But would DJ Chark be someone that Lions fans would accept back, very similar to Marvin Jones last year? So that's the question that I put before Will in the chat. DJ Chark. I don't think that we go wide receiver early in the draft unless Brad finagles, gets a trade, comes out of the first round, grabs his defender in with that first pick, maybe, and gets a receiver with that second pick. I wouldn't be mad at a receiver somewhere, but our defensive line could still use that edge rusher, right? We could use a cornerback on a 5-year deal if he wanted to go that route. So that's my question that I put to you is DJ Chark. How would you feel about the Detroit Lions bringing him back?
All right, so I'm going to be simple with this one, I think. And shout out to Braylon Dennis for the $2 super chat, telling Derek to speak up for the people in the back.
My man.
I turned up his volume a little bit, if that's what you were talking about. But anyway, so DJ Chark, look, if we're not paying Josh Reynolds, we're not paying DJ Chark. Because he was a $10 million guy 2 years ago. What did he make last year? 10 million again?
5.
Yeah. So he's probably looking to make at least 5 again this year. I don't think he had a very good season last year.
Well, I'm glad that you asked. He had 35 receptions. He had 525 yards, 5 touchdowns, an average of 15 yards per catch, and he played a whopping 15 games, which is 4 more than he played in 2022 and 11 more than he played in 2021.
So that's very similar numbers, I believe, to what he did with the Lions, and he missed a few games that last year he was with us. He's probably going to want north of 5 again. I don't see why he wouldn't. I mean, he's a veteran in this league. He would command it. I don't see us bringing back Chark and paying him that kind of money over losing Reynolds again. I mean, that's exactly what I was saying, about, and I'm not going to go deep into this one, but the whole L'Jarius Sneed thing that I brought up last night. When I said last night that, look, if Carlton Davis only makes 77% of the games this year, which is like 13 games, that's the equivalent of paying him L'Jarius Sneed money. So when you break it all down, it's a little over $1.1 million per game times 17 games is $18.96 million. So if he only played 77% of the games at $14.5 million, because he is getting that money at some point, even though they did a small restructure, he's still getting that money. It's just like paying the dude L'Jarius Sneed money. So it doesn't make sense to me. And what I said last night too was, you could have brought in a guy like L'Jarius Sneed. You would have given up less draft capital. What I mean by that is you still would have had your 3rd round pick this year. So you wouldn't have had one next year. Who cares? You had 2 4ths next year. You could have moved up into the 3rd if you wanted that 3rd back. And the 7th round pick, who gives a rat's? You know what I mean? Like, who cares about a 7th round pick at this point? So you give up a 7th and a 3rd in 25 and 26, and you could have brought L'Jarius Sneed in this year and then turned around and traded him next year. Somebody would have paid it. You could have packaged him up for a 1st round pick, and sent away all of his contract in 2025, and you would have probably made out better on the deal. So it didn't make sense to me. There's so many darn ways that I could go through it to make it make more sense. So that's why I didn't believe in the Plan A thing. To go back to that for a second, I think that Brad Holmes was very telling in his press conference or media availability conference that he had with the reporters when he said, his eyes got cocked sideways and he's like, man, did you see the cornerbacks and how much they were getting paid? Got kind of high. Well, for him, it got too high for Brad Holmes, so he backed out. He wasn't going to go after a number 1 anymore because he thought it was too expensive to pay a cornerback $19 million a year, which is exactly what I said L'Jarius Sneed was going to get paid 2 months ago, and that's what he got paid. I still want to go back to something you were talking about a minute ago. You're talking about defense in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So the Lions finished 19th in defensive rank, 23rd in sacks, tied for 11th for interceptions, which was actually really good because tied for first. If the first place there was 2 teams with 22 interceptions, and there was a whole host of teams with 18 and 19 interceptions. So the Lions, were really like 3rd or 4th in interceptions with 16 on the season. So it wasn't bad. Like I'm cool with that number. Obviously would like to have 1 or 2 more, and they should have had probably 3 or 4 more, to be honest with you. But the Kansas City Chiefs, they started off rough, but they finished 2nd in defensive rank, 2nd in sacks with, I don't know how many, but 27th in interceptions with half as much as what the Lions had. 8 interceptions, which is a little surprising to me. With McDuffie and Sneed back there, that they only had 8 interceptions between all of the D-backs. But to your point, though, it does require, and their offense finished 9th, it does require for you to have 2 top 10 components at the end of the season. You have to be a top 10 defense. You have to be a top 10 offense. And what we saw last year was the anomaly. The defense won the championship versus the offense, which hasn't happened in many years. So I think that it's kind of weird to me because when you look at all the numbers, and I've been talking about it for a while, that offense wins, and it has. There's always been a better offensive rank winning the Super Bowl over the defensive rank. And on the same team, not opposite teams, not opposing teams. So what will we see this year? And that's, I don't know, but I think that's why Brad has been developing the offense, because he knows that that's been the trend. It's an offense-driven league. All the rules that they're implementing is offense-driven league. They want to see more points scored, so you change the kick rule. You limit the hip drop tackle because now you're going to have more broken tackles. You're going to have more yak yards. So that's where this NFL is headed. Is it's a higher scoring game. They want to see action. They don't want to see as much defense. I mean, defense used to sell tickets when you got guys laid out on the field, and that's what people were drawn to. Now people are like, oh, it's too much, covering up the kids' eyes, and we want to see offense now. We want to see the high flying scoring circus on the field. So I guess to your point, their defense helped them win a championship last year. It's not like they had this crazy defense. Mm-hmm. They had a couple of good guys. They had a good back end. They had a good defensive tackle. So are we there this year?
They had a great defensive tackle and a great back end.
So, yeah, well, yeah. But, are we there this year? That's going to be the question that Brad Holmes has to answer through this draft. Can you give us a great defensive front and a defensive back to help go win a championship? Because, time and time again, it's proven that you have to have at least one of those components be elite. At least one. Defensive front or defensive back, one of those two has to be elite. So we'll see if it happens.
Okay, let me see something, Will. Trey says, are big name players really worth all that big money, or do they perform to the mega $1 million paychecks? And I wanted to say something too, as we go into to answer Chase, okay? Or Trace, I'm sorry, bro. We have some guys, and Will, maybe you can help me with this.
I got a whole spreadsheet done on this, by the way.
Brad Holmes is tight, bro. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And we're building through the draft. And this is what I'm trying to understand what Lions fans see. If you kill it in the draft, Brad Holmes is the GOAT. He's killing it in the draft. And we're going to have to pay players, or they're going to begin to leave, a la the beginning of this has already started. There's a guy who wants to get paid. He wants to get paid a bunch of money. I believe personally, he might even consider sitting out. His name is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Next year, we've got to Penei Sewell. Knocked it out the park with both of them guys. Everybody expected Penei Sewell to be a dog, and he was. And he's going to get every dime that he deserves. When that time comes, Will and chat, is Brad Holmes willing to part with the money it's going to take to keep those players on the team? I think that because these guys are on our team, we don't see the eventuality of them getting paid. And the fact that our general manager is going to have to come out of the bag for guys that he brought in here. That's so what I'm asking you in the chat is, when the time comes to pay St. Brown, will he pay what these guys want? I don't know what Penei's market value is. I'm sure that'll pop up next year, but I'm sure
he's north of 22 million right now.
$22 million
north. Yeah, north. And that's right tackle. So he's a left tackle and a right tackle. He's north of 25 million as a left tackle.
So $25 million. Will we talk? I don't even know what his what are you talking? What, 4 years? Maybe
4 years. 4 years, 100 million.
$100 million.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, and this is not rhetorical to the chat, do you think Brad Holmes is going to part with the money that it's going to take to keep the dogs that he drafts on this team? That is the only question. That's the only question I need to answer now.
Here's my answer. So Penei Sewell, 1,000%. 1,000% he will keep Penei Sewell, because it is so difficult to find somebody that is that good, that is that young. Remember, he came into the league young.
Yeah, he's still young, bro.
He's still young.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that guy could end up with 3 max contracts in his lifetime. So, Penei Sewell will stick around because of his positional versatility.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, you could extend him as a right tackle and save about $4 or $5 million a year, not paying him left tackle money. Left tackles always get paid more. And then you could just switch him to the left side.
Okay.
When Taylor Decker exits after next season, or is this Taylor's last season? I can't remember. But at any rate, when Taylor's gone, you could then move Penei to the left side, and you saved yourself a bunch of money. I'm not saying that Penei would be happy about it, but I assume that those conversations have been had. Like, look, I'm both. You got to pay me somewhere in between, at least, because at some point I'm expected to go to the left side. But now he's developed his entire career as the right side. I would hate to see that ruined. But he's done great. Amon-Ra St. Brown, if it were me, and I know this is not a great take for people in the chat or anybody else listening, I would not pay a wide receiver that kind of money ever. And the reason why is because you need a better defensive line, a better offensive line, a better quarterback, a better defensive back than you ever will a wide receiver, because so many good wide receivers come out every single year. And if you follow what I call roster roulette, at some point you have to grab a first round wide receiver so that you got him for 5 years. So 4 plus the 5th year option. And when you combine that entire salary together and the length of time together, you're averaging about 10 $10, $12 million a year, which is great money. If that wide receiver can jump out the box year one, or even just start in year two, becoming a top 10, top 15 wide receiver in the league. And for that reason, that's why you grab a wide receiver every 4 years, every 3 years. You're grabbing a top dog that you can bring in. And that's why so many people are thinking wide receiver right now, because if you bring in a wide receiver that can come in and compete at a high level, all of a sudden, St. Brown ain't going to sit out, because you can be like, cool, we got your replacement. He's right there. Ooh. And he just went for 1,200 yards this year. So that's why roster roulette is so important. You want to cycle these guys in and out, and you want to have your funnel built so that you have guys dropping out of the bucket when you need them. Now, I'm not saying to get rid of them on Ra at all, but I think from a functionality standpoint, if I were the GM, what I would not do is overpay for the wide receiver position when you can grab another wide receiver, and you want them young. Wide receivers need young knees. So, you get these guys, 5, 6, 7 years into the league, man, them knees ain't the same for a wide receiver.
Tell me about it.
I don't care that they're even 27, 28. Their knees will not, because they've been doing this for so long. Those knees are beat up. I mean, dude, I can barely walk. I'm 43 years old, and I can barely walk when I get up in the morning because my knees are so shot from playing sports.
Hey, bro, I'm using Aspercream at this moment.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is, and I apologize about the chat, I don't have a mouse this morning, so I'm doing the best I can. I guess what I'm trying to say is to Braylon Dennis's point, St. Brown is irreplicable. I think he's replicable from a stats perspective. Definitely not from the mentality, the dog, the work ethic, everything that goes into St. Brown. You will never find another one. That is why he is so valuable in so many different ways to your team. He's so valuable. The work ethic that he's going to teach everybody else, it's going to spread further than just the wide receiver room. So to backtrack on this, would I pay St. Brown? No. But because of all of the other intangibles, you kind of have to. You're going to have to, which means that you're going to have to strike gold and grab more wide receivers more often in the first round. You have to, because you're going to need to fill in with cheaper talent that can help him be better, that can offset that big contract. So if you pay one wide receiver, great. But you're going to have to grab a guy in the first round quickly, because you're going to need that talent so that you've got at least two guys that can go deep, and turn defenses on top of each other, because that's just, or on top of their head, because that's just what you're going to have to do. So I wouldn't be surprised, man, if we grab like a Brian Thomas, a Franklin, somebody that slips in the first round. I wouldn't be surprised, but I would be real surprised then if Brad Holmes doesn't move up and grab that defensive end.
Okay, so be paying Panay so if his contract is, and you said, so we're talking 22 million, north of 22 million, 4-year deal. So are we talking 98 million for Panay Sewell as a right tackle? Right?
Yes. So, that would be 4 times 22 would be 88 million.
88 million. Okay. 88 million.
I would say that, if you pay him I think that Panay could end up getting a 5-year deal.
Okay.
Because he's so young. And you have to forgive me, because the void years are kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen some contracts with like 4 void years, and I think the rule is you just can't extend the bonus beyond 5 years. So you could maybe have 8 void years, but only the first 5 years of the contract you can spread the bonus out for. And once you post June 1st, designate them for a trade or a cut, then you can spread everything else over the final 2 years of the contract versus that last year. And I mean, the contracts are tough. I tried to get Brad from PFF to come on the show to go through contracts. Hopefully he'll come on at some point. Not sure when, but it's real busy right now with draft. So it probably wouldn't be till after the draft if it even is a possibility.
Well, Will, I'm seeing a lot of we can replace this guy. You can find another St. Brown, and I think you did an excellent job saying why we couldn't. But here's the thing that I'm trying to figure out. Why are we so quick to assume that we can find a replacement? Right? So here we are that we are going into Jameson Williams.
Here we go.
Here we go. Jameson Williams. I had two thoughts in my head at the same time. It just replacing people it's not always as easy as you might think. We were so ready to throw away Jared Goff, and now he's taken us further, him with the help of his team, further than Matthew Stafford ever did. And we were so quick to throw dude in the sewer, bro. Down there with the Ninja Turtles, right? Secret of the Ooze. That's what we're trying to do with this guy. Jesus. And we're trying to replace all of these. Oh, we can replace him. We can replace this guy. We can replace that guy. You can find another wide receiver. He's this, he's that. When Amon-Ra St. Brown is not in the game, it shows. It shows. He is a difference maker. And I really truly believe if you switch places, St. Brown and J-Mo, oh shoot. J-Mo, pay J-Mo, because he got all these, he got the speed, he got the this, he got the that. I don't understand why we're so quick to think. And Lions fans, I think y'all are taking on the ego of your general manager. Who says that we're going to go back to, Will, do you understand? And I know you do, but do you think Lions fans understand the fact that of where we were? Like, we're not just going to waltz back and be a 12-5 and have a 2-game playoff win, go to San Francisco, have a 17-point lead, and then be a half hour away from the Super Bowl. It doesn't work like that. Ask the San Francisco 49ers, ask the Cincinnati Bengals, ask the Los Angeles Rams. I just all of this stuff, man, is this arrogance that we're going to just get back to where we were.
Oh no, we lost Derek again. I didn't touch anything. Hold on. There he is. There he is. I didn't touch anything.
The internet. I upset the whole Will system mad at me. So my question to you, Willis, and the chat is this, do you think that Lions fans have kind of inherited some of this taste of winning? And now, we going to do all these things. These things are guaranteed to happen.
Hold on here. So
I know it was a lot to take in.
Look, I know that it's not easy to get back. I mean, there's some, like you've already pointed out a bunch of teams, but look, if it's that easy, why haven't the Lions done it ever in the Super Bowl era? Right? Ever. Never made a Super Bowl. If it's that easy, how come we've only been to the playoffs a handful of times, not including this last season? Less than a handful in the Super Bowl era.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Twice. What, did we make it twice in 30 years? And we never made it to an NFC championship until this last year.
We won twice in 30 years. I think our total playoff appearances heading into last year was 12. So I think
that's right. Because 93 was the year we beat the Cowboys, right? So,
right. Yeah. We won.
Yeah. That was the last year that we did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The conference. So it's not easy. It's not easy for any team that even has a loaded team. And you see what happens when you have a loaded team and you go deep, you start to lose players. Mm-hmm. Now, the Lions did a really good job at keeping their core foundation intact from last year to this year. Their core is there. They've lost out on Jonah, which we expected. He got way overpaid. That's somebody else's problem now. We lost, J. Ray, which I think he was a core component of that wide receiver room. I mean, the guy was so good in the room. You can ask anybody. There's so many articles that have been printed about the guy of how good he is in the room with the other guys, as a mentor, everything. So you lose some of that. And now you're expecting a guy like St. Brown to take over, be the guy in the room. Because right now he's going to be the vet in the room. And he's going to be expected to develop, into a mentorship role. Can he do that? Is that within him? Is he able to do that? I don't know. I don't know if that's within St. Brown because he is so fixated on him and being best. I don't know if he's going to be able to grab a guy underneath his wing and say, all right, come on, buddy, let me show you how it's done. You know what I mean? Point, I don't know if he's that guy. I mean, Brad or Dan said it the other day, go live with the guy for a little bit. Just see what he's all about. You won't be able to hang with this guy. Mm-hmm. You'll quit after a couple of days. And that's what I love about Amon-Ra. But let me get back to what this guy said here a minute ago in the chat, because I want to make sure that we're on the same page with one of my major takes today. Where was it? It was E. Tunimus or something like that. E. Tonimus says that this GM guy would rather trade our draft picks for cornerback Sneed and pay him $24 million, but you won't pay St. Brown. I'm baffled. So number one, I never mentioned $24 million. Sneed is $19 million. Number two, we gave a third round pick up for Carlton Davis. They gave up a third round pick for Sneed. The only difference between these deals is $4.5 million less to Carlton and a 7th round pick swap. So you wouldn't have lost a 7th. You just swapped position. So again, all you gave up was a 3rd round pick for Sneed and $19 million a year. That's it. So the difference is $4.5 million a year. And when you look at the percentage-based performance of Carlton Davis, he's already making $19 million a year based on missing 23% of the games. So the numbers all add up. I've done all the math. Number two, please tell me how many DBs are on a roster from any given year. On average, 10. You have about 10 DBs on a roster. 32 teams, that's 320 DBs in the NFL every single season on the active roster. How many of them are elite? You'd care to take a guess, Derek?
Nope.
So, I mean, how many would you say are elite? Out of 320 DBs across the league on an active roster, 32 teams, how many do you think are elite?
Okay, give me a player that you think is, so I can have a
Sneed, Jalen Johnson. Those are the elite guys in the league.
I'll say about 20.
Probably right. So you have less than a 10% chance of being an elite corner, which means you have less than a 10% chance of finding an elite corner in the draft. Brad Holmes even said it best when he said, he's a snob at picking corners because they're very difficult to find. And that's why you draft corners every year because you need depth. You need a lot of players to fulfill the room, but to go and grab one in the first round, he's going to be super patient with because it's extremely difficult to find the right guy. So for that reason, yes, I would have paid Sneed because you already know what you're going to get. He's already proven it to you on the field, and it is extremely difficult to find those guys. So 1,000% as a GM, I would have traded the same pick that we traded for Carlton Davis for L'Jarius Sneed, and I would have spent $4.5 million more per season for L'Jarius Sneed. But at the end of the day, the cap hit in the first year would have been no more than what you're already paying for Carlton Davis. And if you really wanted to get off of that contract, you could easily trade L'Jarius Sneed after the fact. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about, paying a top tier corner like Sneed versus St. Brown. St. Brown, I think you have to keep on the roster. My point is this, and I'll be short with it. You can find a commensurate wide receiver in the draft or a collection of wide receivers in the draft that can produce the same amount of yards and stats and everything else that St. Brown does every year. It might be 2 guys doing it versus 1 guy doing it. And it would be for 10% of the contract value if you paid St. Brown $26 million. So it can be done. And the Chiefs, I think, are the biggest point. I mean, they just won 2 Super Bowls in a row with a wide receiver room that was not valued over $15 million. If you take Kelsey out of the equation, he's not a receiver. When you add Kelsey to the equation, it's right around $28 to $30 million a year. So it can be done. You do not need elite receivers to win in this game. You just need one that can get some separation. And by the way, we got a guy by the name of Sam Laporta, who is just a giant wide receiver that gets separation. So now the tables have turned a little bit. You have a guy that can go in and produce 1,000 yards a year if you really want to invest in Laporta being your number 1 target all the time, just like they do with Travis Kelce. So when you look at the spending, between Detroit and Kansas City, they're identical. They're identical in what they do. It was crazy when you look at how much they spend on every component of the team, quarterbacks, cornerbacks, wide receivers, defensive tackles, all of it, they're almost identical across the board. So I think that we are following a little bit of the Kansas City way, or you have two GMs that think very similar, that this is how you build a team and this is how it's done, when you bring the guys in, and how you keep the roster filled, because it's such a mirror image. And I'll share that information, again. Derek, how much time do you have this morning?
I got a few more minutes, man.
Okay. Anything you want to go into next?
No, I just, it's just, I hear what you're saying, and I think you make a lot of sense. I have yet to see Brad Holmes, the way that he's building, yes, but one thing that he does not part with is dollars. Like he just doesn't, and he does to the people that he wants, a la, and you talked about, and somebody in the comments said something about Sneed not fitting the culture, and I'm just like, okay, you know what? I've had enough of that. I really have.
I don't know that.
Right. But I've had enough of that, because you know who didn't fit? Who was a complete and total fraud. And I have not made a video about this, so y'all getting exclusive. CJ Gardner. CJ Gardner-Johnson was a complete and total fraud, but not only on this team, but the culture as well. I like what he brought to the team. Okay, I did, but he really didn't want to be here. And as far as a culture fit, he was nowhere close, right? And Will, you brought a point off the air about Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes saying that you can have that room for like one of those guys, and he was that one, right? So for me, when we talk about culture, we talk about dogs. Okay, we do a lot of talking for a team that ain't won nothing, right? We ain't won nothing. We see what this team is building, and I respect that. But we talk about culture, and he doesn't fit the culture, and not everybody can be a Detroit Lion. That's true. I knew Jalen Carter wasn't going to be a Lion. I knew that with every fiber of my bone. I knew Kayvon Thibodeau was not going to be a Detroit Lion. But the guys that we got over both of them dudes, I like them better, right? But at the same time, sometimes you need a dog on your team. I'm talking about off the leash, rabies, the whole thing. You need a dog on your team. And what I love about this, and I think people, and I know, Will, it's my delivery, just like now I'm getting spicy, is that Ndamukong Suh is nowhere near this culture at all. But guess what? Lions fans at 37 years old still want this brother to come back. Still now, he is not officially retired, and y'all still screaming for Ndamukong Suh. But Ndamukong Suh, why are you screaming for him? Because he was a dog. He was a dog. That was the last time our defense was worth 2 cents, was when we had Ndamukong Suh. So you got to pick and choose. Eventually, okay, we got to get some dogs on this team, right? So this whole culture thing, and Sneed doesn't fit the culture, blah, blah, blah. We need to win, bruh. And I'm telling you, give me a dog off the leash for a Super Bowl win any day of the week, because that's something I want to see before I cease to exist. And that's all I got.
All right. I love it, man. I love the fire. So, all right, let me go back to Tonimus here, because he says that I forgot about the 55 million guaranteed. I didn't.
Boy,
because
let me step out.
I clearly said 19 million. I'm expecting Sneed to get 100% of his money. 100. Not 72% guaranteed like he got, 100%. Now, Davis, when he signed his contract, he got about 55% guaranteed. That's not a big difference. It's just back then, cornerbacks weren't making as much as what they are today. That's just the way that the room is built. So I'm expecting Sneed to make 100%, and I expect him to make $19 million. Now, again, the cap hit is what matters. It's a giant fugazi of contracts in the NFL. So it's what the cap hit is. It's not the number. The number is mythical, right? It's what they actually get paid, and how you have all these restructures, and how the cap hit is, here's a nice big chunk of change. Here's 20 million of your $80 million contract. That's about all we expect to pay you. Have a nice day. Because in a couple of years, we're going to trade you or cut you, and then all that guaranteed money goes away to the next team. So it's a giant fugazi. You have to understand the way contracts work, and I understand about 50% of it, which is about 45% more than most people, because there's a lot to know. Yeah. And that's why I want to get a professional expert on the show to talk about contracts, so that we can have a more intelligent conversation as Lions fans. because I think that that's an area of need. I think that we need to understand more so that maybe our fan base can be more educated on this is how it really works. You see the giant numbers, they don't really add up. They never have. And there's a lot of intelligent people, big guys that do this type of work, media analysts that will say the exact same thing.
Okay, I'm sorry, Will. Maybe this is my time to check off. So John Meadows says, I appreciate you, bro. Says, you do complain a lot, Derek. I still support you because more times than not, you are right. Okay, so here's what I want to say about that. I don't complain. I keep it a buck and a half. When we drafted Jameson Williams, I had a natural fit while everyone else is running around because unlike, and this is no disrespect to anybody in the chat, I don't got all the time in the world. I don't want to be sitting here 50 years from now. There's a guy, and this bothers me, Will. It affects me, bro. I told some of my homies about this yesterday. I'm affected by the gentleman that passed away with the blue hair. I'm affected by him because we were this close to doing something he has never seen. We were this close. He could have had that moment with his family. And as he descended into however you look at death, okay? As he passed away, as he did that, right? He could have had a moment with his family and said, the Lions did it. The Lions did it, okay? Who knows about the Super Bowl? But we checked off another box. This stuff is serious to me. Like, it doesn't control my life, Will. I have other things that I'm doing, all right? It doesn't dictate how I feel all the time. But unlike most people, I don't look at next year like, well, go elite. We're about to get them next year. Nothing is promised about the moment I leave in front of this screen. And if we have an opportunity, take control of it. So when I hear the word complain, I get irritated because what I don't do, Will, is pander. That's what I don't do. And you, like he said, but I like the statement at the end. He said, more than often, you are right. So how am I complaining if I'm right when I'm keeping it a buck and a half? And not a lot of people do that on this platform, Will. Not a lot of people do it, bro. They value clicks over integrity and honesty. And that's what I will always give you. Okay, so that whole complain is a trigger for me because we had an opportunity and we blew it, but we're trying to find all these excuses. We blew that opportunity. Okay, so there's no promise that we're going to get back. There's no promise because I assure you, if we do anything less than make the Super Bowl, y'all will lose your mind. There's nothing less. Will, would you agree? Not that you'll lose your mind, but our goal this year is to make a Super Bowl. Anything less than that is how would you feel if we don't make a Super Bowl? So we make it back to the NFC title game. We play the Green Bay Packers at home and we lose. How are you feeling?
I think it'd be terrible. I mean, look, I'm worried about making it back to the playoffs. I'll be honest. I'm worried about winning the division. I don't even know that Super Bowl is in our sights right now until we get to training camp and until we get out of training camp healthy, hopefully. That's how serious it is in the NFL. It is not easy. Why do you think that Dan Campbell was so upset after the loss to the 49ers? He was so upset and he's like, oh my God, that was our only shot. Because how difficult it is to get back. He's seen it. He's been in the league himself. But anyway, to everybody out there that says that, you complain a lot or whatever the case may be, or look, there's a difference between being passionate and somebody that puts the work in, that goes through, a lot of time and energy spent to make sure that you understand everything to the best of your ability and to form your own good opinions. Look, 20,000 people show up for a reason. Derek does a great job with what he's built over many years, and he's passionate, and that's what it's all about. He's been a Lions fan forever, and he wants to see a winner. I'm in the same boat. I may not be as energetic, but there's some days that I'm very passionate too, and I have some pretty strong opinions at times, but everything that I say usually comes from a place of research. I also put my passion into it too, I wear my heart on a sleeve at times. Look, if we don't ask the questions, if you blindly walk through life and just say, yep, yes, okay, well, then you're a yes man. Mm-hmm. If you walk through life and you question things a little bit, you're going to get further. I think they call those sheep that just, are yes men. You don't want to be a sheep. Wake up, look at everything, read something, open an article or 5 a day. That's what I read, probably 30 articles a day. I try to listen to as many podcasts as I can while I'm driving so that I can be educated about the NFL. It's not just Lion stuff. I listen to, a lot of different things. And eventually this show will grow into an extra hour where we're talking more NFL stuff too, because there's only so much Lion stuff you can talk about.
I can't wait, man. I'm excited.
But you know what? So this morning, just take away this. Each creator on this platform does their own thing, whether you're a clickbaiter, whether you're someone that just wants clicks for content, or, you're passionate, you have, real history as a Lions fan, whether you're a season ticket holder. There's many different variations to being a creator, but at the end of the day, we're all fans of the same team and we all have different opinions, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that there's a space for everybody. It's your choice on who you listen to. It's your choice on whether you believe in it or not. I will always try to give you the truth, the honesty, and the transparency through integrity ways of reporting. And I think that Derek does the same exact thing. He just does it a little bit differently. And that's his way.
I say this, man. I appreciate the support. I didn't mean to cut you off, man. I appreciate the kind words and all that stuff. I just think that it's not enough fans anymore on a platform. You got all these, and I'm not trying to, this is not about beef or shots or anything, but the fan doesn't exist. I'm sitting in front of a microphone and I am a fan first. I'm not an analyst. I am a fan. And what you get from me is a fan reaction. I'm not here to give you stats and all that. And here's another video. And everything I do comes from a place. I started on this platform because of the passion that I had to talk about the Detroit Lions, not to necessarily build this, fan-driven brand. And now I'm an analyst and I'm sitting in a booth somewhere. That's not the life I want. So I think that not enough fans exist, and fans will tell you like it is. You have people who want to analyze and critique, but they don't want to upset the fan base, because if they do that, they'll lose their followers, their views will take a hit, stuff like that. So I want to say this, and then I'll wrap it up. I trust Brad Holmes, but I'm not blindly following him. Like Will said, I'm like, bro, we need a defense. We need a quality defense. Okay. So what is that? That's not too much to ask of the greatest general manager we've ever seen. Okay. Get a defense, Brad. Help us go all the way, because we deserve it. We deserve it. Cause see, I still remember those days. This hasn't, and I'm not SOL. I'm not saying that. The pain, Will, is there, bro. Like I'm devastated. I still have not gotten over the loss, because I'm that type of fan. Y'all think, I don't know what you think I am, but I am that type of fan. This stuff sits with me. It doesn't affect my daily life, but I will never forget that until we win a Super Bowl. And I just think that a lot of fans, they don't understand that football is a year-long process. We got 5 months on and 7 months off. And at the end of the day, one team wins it all. And I just want every Lions fan to experience that one time. That's all I'm asking. I'm not even asking for a dynasty. Just give us one. Make us in the history books. Take us off the graphic that says never been. Help us be one of the 12 teams that's never won. Right? You know where we sit, Will? We sit in basement territory.
Mm-hmm.
It's us, the Browns, and I'll say this, and I'm done. The Lions are the only OG team to never appear in the Super Bowl. The Browns no longer count. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 35 years old, and the Houston Texans are 35 years old. The Detroit Lions, and why am I so traumatized by this? We were this close to that graphic being checked off. This close.
To at least make it, not even win one, to at least make it.
Right. The Detroit Lions are the only OG team to never appear in a Super Bowl.
And OG, just so everyone understands, is like one of the original teams. If you don't understand,
yes, the original team. Original. The Browns no longer count. They are, once they left for Baltimore, they started over. Okay, so I just found that out about 3 months ago. I was watching NFL Throwback. They reset, so to speak, because don't forget, the Browns didn't exist for 3 or 4 years. The Browns were not a football team, right? The Detroit Lions became the Detroit Lions in 1934. So we have been the Detroit Lions for 90 years. So that's all.
Hey, we were the Spartans before that. Just got to throw that out there.
Gotta throw it out there. So that's all I'm saying.
We weren't the Wolverines. We were the Spartans before.
Right. So it's just I look at it like every day's not promised. Tomorrow's not promised. Next season's not promised. And I'm just tired, y'all. And I want to, but I will say this: this journey, Will, has been fantastic. Going to Kansas City, watching them walk out with their head low because the Lions, the Rocky Balboa of the NFL, beat them. Going into Kansas, and Will, you were there, bro. We felt fantastic at halftime. Halftime, we like, bro, is this it? Is this the time, man?
Dude, so I was already on my way to Vegas. Like I was there.
So that's all y'all hear, man. And like Will said, we got different opinions. We got different, but we all want the same thing. We all want to be in. We want to be on Woodward celebrating a parade. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so Woodward Avenue, not sport.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, here's what I'll end with this morning. Number one, we would love to earn, obviously, your respect and your consideration to join at Rocked On Syndicate and subscribe. Next week, Tuesday, will be the first show off of this channel. It's going to that direction for a reason. We want to build that channel into, a weekday network of morning talk show. It's going to take time to build, but we want it to turn into something where there's multiple hours and multiple segments. I'm going to be working on building a full news desk and really revamp what I'm doing in the studio. More cameras, excuse me, more camera looks.
He's getting choked up just talking about it. It's okay.
And yeah, it's one of those mornings today. So, at the end of the day, there's a lot that this team has done and accomplished, and we're super proud of it. But now we were 3 plays away when you look at it. Now, none of us have gone over or at least Derek and I haven't reviewed the 49ers game yet. I don't believe in any videos.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not going to do it. So that's all
I'm probably going to, but I wanted to go over it and show everybody, it won't be monetized because you just can't. But just like this show, by the way. So this show's not monetized while you're here live. If you make this show live, we pay for all the ads. It's that simple. The ads get taken care of. You guys don't have to pay for them. It's when this show ends that we allow YouTube to do it. And then I think that helps us get more people in the show to enjoy the show without all the interruptions. We have enough technical difficulties sometimes with the interruptions anyway. So, which that'll be fixed too here shortly. I just got to get a new computer and figure out why this one's giving me trouble. But at any rate, you guys are awesome as always. Different morning this morning, man. We touched on a few topics. At the end of the day, look, I respect the hell out of Brad Holmes. I respect Sheila the most because of what she's brought to this team and the energy and the direction and the focus that it's heading in. We're always going to have different opinions. We're not always going to agree, but there's one thing that I'll always say. I respect everybody in this chat in what their opinions are. That's okay. What if we don't agree? I just see something a little bit differently. I would just urge you guys to continue to become, more educated as I will. And please point out the things that, that I'm really getting wrong, because that's where I need to get better. But get educated about, some of these things so we can have more intelligent conversations. But by all means, come on the show. If you guys want to talk football and you want to let everybody know, get out of the chat, get in the show. We will have segments for fans where you guys can come in and just talk about stuff, whether it's on the phone or live with us in the show. And I would love to have more conversations with fans, because that's what this is all about, is the fan. Derek, why don't you send us off this morning?
Man, appreciate y'all. You know what? I would not be here without you guys. And that's just real. And it's all love. It's never ever personal at all, because that's just nonsense. It's just, I am that type of fan, man, where I want to see us win. And like I said, I don't think that it makes you a different fan, but growing up in Detroit and living the life that I lived in Detroit and knowing what Detroit stands for and what the Pistons championship means and what a Lions Super Bowl would mean. I mean, I see us having a parade with no violence. Like I see that type of, because we're so ready and we're so deserving of this. And I don't think there's any fan base that compares to ours. And the fact that we're still around after 0-8, all the negative, horrendous records that we've set in the NFL, and we're still here. And I'm ready to win, guys, and that's all it is. So with that being said, man, don't forget, subscribe, Rocked On Syndicate Sports, going live over there on Tuesday, and eventually, like Will was saying, we'll build up the show, man, and get it going. So with that being said, man, I appreciate you guys. Subscribe to the channel. Big things coming this season, man, and go Lions.
Appreciate it all. Take care. Daniel Jacob, follow up with me in an email, man. info@rockdownpodcastnetwork.com. If you have some ideas, I've tried everything. But all right, we'll see you guys on Tuesday. Have a good morning. All take care.